Welcome back to the Sensual Underground. Let's be honest for a second right now. Dating is an absolute unmitigated mess. Men and women seem more confused than ever, more exhausted, more frustrated than ever before, and especially women are complaining about behaviors like ghosting, mixed signals, and some truly weird male behaviors. And navigating the modern dating scene or finding even love has become more difficult than ever. So I thought, why not go straight to the source? What is actually going on inside the male brain? How does a real man view this chaotic landscape? And more importantly, what is his unfiltered advice for women trying to navigate and survive it? So, to answer all of this, I invited my dear friend, the man who is stepping up to enlighten us all, and whom I have officially hired as the chief dating coach of the Sensual Underground, Noah Sibuliak. Noah, I'm so happy that you're here today.
Thank you for having me back, Ildiko.
Yes, so this is our second interview. I interviewed you, I think it was a year ago in my Dominant Man series already. But for people who haven't heard of you, you are so many things. You are an artist, a writer, a musician, music producer, and you are also a man's coach and you work with men and you have a lot of insight into what it truly means to be a real man in these confused times. And you also have, I think, a very deep understanding of what it means to embody conscious masculine dominance. And in today's conversation, I would like to explore five very common dating scenarios that women are facing right now. And I would love to hear your honest perspective on it and also rate the men that I'm going to describe in the different scenarios in terms of their masculinity. So, how masculine they are in your view. And I would also love to know what your advice would be for the woman who is receiving these weird modern male behaviors.
Sounds great. Let's
Okay,
dive in.
awesome. So before we dive into the different scenarios, I would love to read a quote that you sent to me in one of our email conversations a couple of years ago. And I think it is the perfect summary of what it means to be a real man. And I would love to read this quote to all of our listeners. So, a couple of years ago, you wrote to me, contain your woman, sort your shit out elsewhere, lead. The leader does not ask to be contained by those he leads. He is contained by his superiors, other, better men. He never goes 50-50 with a woman. You want tits in your face and blowjobs. You want feminine gifts, nourishment. You want surprise chocolate cake and little butter tarts on your desk. Then no whiny bullshit ever with her. Lead her, contain her. It's as simple as that. I love this quote so much. And I would love to hear you speak about what this means to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that you've brought it up again and giving me some space to expound upon it. The central feeling about it that I have is that as men, we are taught to look at women unconsciously as saviors and as mummy and as a place to basically bring all of our stuff to where it will be safe. I think a lot of us have treated women as safe harbors. And the only reason I can speak in that way that I did in that quote is because I made those mistakes in the past in my relationships. It's not that I just was downloaded this on high or something. It's that I eventually gained enough distance from myself, from my past behaviors to see that I had been acting in a way that was contrary to the advice I give in that quote, and that I had been making women into safe harbors, asking them to contain me, expecting their affection and compassion and sympathy and sexuality. And I did not understand what I have come to understand, which is that there are laws, there are rules. And a younger man does not like laws and rules. Today, we're going to talk about, I think, quite a bit the puer archetype or the Peter Pan archetype. But, that's become a bit endemic in a lot of men in our culture, in our Western culture, is this idea that we don't have to play by rules. We don't have to see that actually there's ways that men and women relate best. And so in that quote, I basically, it's pretty blunt, but it's an injunction to men, which is just like, if you want your relationships to go well with women, there are certain rules that can be learned, but there's also certain sacrifices that must be made. And that includes going 50-50 and asking to be contained and having this equality kind of in the relationship in the way that at least equality has been traditional or has been couched recently, I should say. So, yeah, that's the gist.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, and you just mentioned how problematic it can be when a man relates to a woman erotically, but is also kind of like looking for that maternal support. What do you think if it is like the other way around? For example, a woman looking for that kind of like daddy energy in her male partner. What do you think about that?
Hmm. I'm not sure. I feel that it should be a safe place, a relationship for a woman to feel like she can fully relax. And that female relaxation is basically the holy grail because often it feels like men are trying to extract like water from a stone or something. It feels like men are trying to get something out of women that they have not created the conditions for at
Mhm.
all. And they have these demands of women, and they demand that women be both relaxed and feminine, and essentially the Holy Grail, which is radiant and fun and spontaneous and playful and beautiful. And yet they refuse to create the conditions for that. And I think to your question, it's probably a part of it that a woman would feel safe to fully relax. Today I went and got a coffee and I saw a dynamic that I rarely see between a woman and a man, a younger woman with an older man. But the man was very, very strong, very solid, had his work boots on, was speaking in a very upright, confident way with the person making his coffee. They were laughing, they were joking. He has obvious status in the community. He obviously is running some kind of business. And she looked very just like relaxed. And I couldn't tell exactly because I was like, well, he could be her daddy,
Mhm.
her actual father, or not. But it doesn't really matter because she looked like she was able to just be. And it was very beautiful to behold that dynamic, that polarity.
Mhm.
So I think it has more to do with, have we ever seen at scale a relaxed feminine, a relaxed woman with a capital W? Have we seen that where women can just relax because they're fully contained? Have we seen that?
On
No,
a collective scale, I would say no, at least not in the last, I don't know, 5,000 years or so.
exactly.
I may imagine that it might have been a little different when we were still hunters and gatherers, but of course, I don't know.
Yeah, right? It's just a myth
Mhm,
at this point. It's just an imagination.
mhm,
So when you come across it in the wild, in like at a small scale, it's quite beautiful to behold. It's
mhm.
quite like the polarity is very strong. It feels like everyone's enjoying themselves. It's just nice to see, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's dive into the first scenario that I would like to discuss with you. So this is a very common one. I think a lot of women are struggling with this, especially women who are kind of like interested in the topics that we are exploring here. And I'm going to read um, this behavior to you. So, he genuinely believes that he is deeply respectful towards women. He believes in equality, consent, and treating his partner as an equal in every aspect of the relationship. One evening, his partner vulnerably tells him she is longing to experience stronger masculine leadership during sexual intimacy. She wants him to take the lead, to become more decisive, more intentional, more dominant. She is curious about exploring a consensual, dominant, submissive dynamic together. Instead of becoming curious, he immediately rejects the conversation. He tells her that dominance is degrading and that she is lucky to have a partner who treats her as an equal and respects her dignity. What do you think?
Yeah. So the first thing about it is how hypocritical it is because you can't say, yeah, I'm into equality and consent and just 50-50, and then shut down your partner's point of view or question or genuine desire without any willingness to engage deeply and presently with where that might be coming from her. So already it's a non-starter because the man is hypocritical. The second piece is it feels like there's a lot of ideology running in that type of stance. We've been sort of bathed in that as Western men. And we've been told that equality and consent, this type of consent and equal ground is the holy grail. And therefore, that's where we feel safe. And so if we go a layer deeper than that, it feels to me like there's a bit of a death mother archetype operating there.
Mhm.
Because as young men, often we were raised by mothers and we were given the stakes, which is like, if you want to survive, you're going to play the game that mommy sets up. It's quite Oedipal. It's like, because often father is not as present as he should be. So we have this primary caregiving relationship to our mother. And that can become incestuous, such that it's like, in order to survive, you need to make me feel safe and you need to revere me as mother. But that doesn't translate well into the scenario that this woman in this um, example is wanting to create. So the man feels threatened by this because it's hearkening back to a very uh, primal sense of survival threat for him because it's activating that primary caregiving relationship. And I didn't understand this well until I read one of these books on the subject. It's called The Primal Wound by John Furman and Ann Gila. It's really good for any listener who wants to understand how these patterns get set up. And of course, most of us don't even know that they're operating. So if we look at it from that perspective of the man is threatened because if he were to break this taboo, from the point of view of his younger self, it's existential. Okay, okay. But then on another level, it's about power because he's afraid of his power. He doesn't know what will happen if he steps into that. It's completely unknown for him. He's never had the chance to express it. Will I be able to handle it? Will I go too far? Will I scare myself? Will I cause her to pull away? Will I go too far and it will create rejection? He doesn't have an embodied experience of what that might be like. So this type of, if you're a woman who is with this type of man, my advice is to basically lay some of that out, and it has to be titrated slowly. Now, you may not have the patience to do that, which is absolutely fine. Because after all, as a woman, you have to ask yourself, am I here to be engaged in the I guess, re-education of men? And this is something that you've brought up before in the past, which I really appreciate. I think in one of our last conversations, you're like, I that's not really my job. Like I expect to show up and have them already have that sorted out, which I completely respect. And so if you are like, no, no, I really do want a dominant, submissive type of experience, and I want to meet a man who can provide that for me without having to go through all of these, I don't know, training wheels, phases. That's awesome. Decide that and step into that and then move from there and decide that you are not going to accept anything less than that. However, it's not always that black and white. Maybe you actually deeply love this person, as inconvenient as that is.
Yes,
So,
very inconvenient actually. I think, no, honestly, like, like I personally, I would immediately dump this guy. And
right.
I will tell you why. Because even if he has a little bit of openness around maybe titrating into Dom sub, it would still require me to take the lead. So I would not be able to be in my full submission. Right, because I would still have to manage his resistance and like guide him along and make sure that we take baby steps. And that to me is already like that just makes my pussy dry up like nothing
Yeah.
else. So I could not do it. But I also know a lot of women are in relationships, right? Like that, and they truly love the man, or they are married to him and they do not want to throw their entire relationship away. And it's I think it's a very difficult place to be in, to be honest, as a woman. It's very exhausting. You have to have a lot of patience and the nerves for it, I guess.
It's not enviable.
No, no, it's
I
not.
think one thing that would be good is for the man to see what that would be like for the woman. So, is there a place where, whether it's with that woman or it's somewhere else, where you can demonstrate, hey, this is what happens in a woman's system when the man shows up in this way, such that it's just so obvious. It's like very visual. Here's what the woman's system looks like when she's the one who has to contain, or when it's equal, or when that man is not able to run things. Do you see this? Can you be present to it? Can you feel it? Do you see the energy? Cool. And then the exact contrasting opposite. What happens when the man is very strong and leading in that way? And can you see the difference? Man in this example, and he will.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have like my personal theory on this is that a man who is just rejecting a DS dynamic in the first place, he has not seen a woman in subspace because that's also how I got into BDSM. I never felt drawn to BDSM because I do not like pain. I do not have any masochistic tendencies, so I was just not interested in it, or so I thought. But then I watched a BDSM scene between a man and a woman where the Dom was tying the sub up and she dropped into subspace almost immediately. And the moment she dropped into subspace, I could feel it in my entire body. And I was like, fuck, I do not understand why being tied up turns her on this much. But whatever she has, whatever she is experiencing right now, I need that, right? And then that kind of like opened me up, and then I was just ready to go and dive in. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people would be like that because we have a lot of projections when it comes to BDSM and Dom sub, and they are very rarely true.
Yeah. I mean, um, those projections and ideas about anything usually get in the way of just having an experience which is completely lived, which collapses all of those.
Mhm.
So that's why the man needs to get into a place as soon as possible where he's no longer in his head because the body already knows what to do.
Yes,
The
so
body
true.
knows what to do. The body,
Yes.
like as a man, as a testosterone fueled, embodied man, when you are in a situation of danger, if you're not in your head, you know what to do. If you're in a situation where some kid's about to die, unless you jump in, you know what the body knows what to do. And it's the same thing when you are with a woman who is submitting to you. And it doesn't just have to do with in an intimate situation, it can be any situation. It can be you're walking down the street and rather than have the woman be on the outside where the cars are going, you put yourself on the outside and you put your arm around her. And the difference and how
Mhm.
odd it feels in your body when she's on the outside. It feels odd as a man. It's like,
Mhm.
if you really check in, it's like, I don't know. I don't do that. I put you over here
Mhm.
and then we walk, right? The body knows what to do. So the man needs to get into a place where he can just let go into that and experience the enjoyment of that. That's what we actually really want is to feel because now there's energy flowing and
Yes.
now it's
Yes.
enjoyable.
Absolutely. And I also feel very much that, like so many women have difficulty surrendering during sex and difficulty truly letting go. And, like a lot of the time, if you listen to sex coaches or sex educators, they will kind of like frame it as the woman's problem, right? So you are just stuck in your head. You have a dysregulated nervous system. You need to work through some past trauma, whatever. And, the woman usually feels that she is at fault for that. But I do not see it this way because I think it is a reflection of the man's presence or lack of presence that she is actually with. Because, like in my experience, if you are with a truly dominant man, your nervous system just like intuitively changes its state and you almost have no control over it as a woman, like once you receive this energy from a man and you just let go, you just melt, and you cannot even stop it. And it's also not really connected to anything that he is doing. He doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to be in the same room as you. He does not need to touch you, right? And he can drop you into subspace just like that, and you are just putting in his arms or in his presence. But what I find so irritating is that most modern men, they do not have this depth and presence. And instead, I perceive their energy as very irritating. So, you and I have also talked about this once. I remember this very well. And you actually shared with me that you have similar sentiments when it comes to man's energetic presence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, is a problem because most men are very distracted and they have their attention in a million different places in the future, in the past, and their body is not able to feel slow and grounded. And it annoys me. Now, some men are better at it. I noticed that men who work with their hands
Yes,
are
I
sometimes
love
better.
them. There's so much like generally the more physical the lifestyle of a man is, the better he is at embodying this presence. And it's very often subconscious. Like a lot of guys who are just like working a lot, who are just living in their bodies, they don't even know on a conscious level that they are transmitting this energy, but
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah. But I just want to come back to the point you're making about women feeling like it's their fault. I completely agree with you because that if a woman feels like it's her fault, then she's back in her head and she's back in trying to figure out she's putting it back on herself and this doesn't work. So the man has to take responsibility and for creating the conditions. So things have changed in my mind. Things changed in my mind around all of this when I understood that it's the man's job and responsibility to create the conditions for receptivity.
Yes.
When I was saying earlier about how men just want to extract water from a stone and how impossible that is, that's most men's approach.
Mhm.
And it's been created as a result of the Peter Pan thing that's happened because of how much pornography and soft porn is of just everywhere.
Mhm.
And men have this expectation that real women who they interact with should be as receptive as it looks on the screen, which is a whole other illusion. But if you can throw that away and instead deal with the actual woman in front of you and take on board as your responsibility to create the conditions for receptivity. Receptivity doesn't just exist like out of nothing. It's a potential,
Mhm.
but you must create the conditions for the juices to flow. And when you take that on board as a man, it's delicious because now it's like, oh, I can do this. This
Mhm.
is fun. This is an adventure. I can create this. This is what she wants. She doesn't want to have to take control to create her own receptivity. It's basically impossible. It
Yes,
when
and
you do it, yeah, you go.
that's a fucking performance of femininity. I also get very angry when I hear all of these like femininity coaches like talking, like just be soft when you are around men, just be receptive, just be feminine. But when a man is not containing you, that is just a performance. You are actually, it's not authentically coming out of you. You are performing it because you are hoping that in exchange for your performance of femininity, you will get love, right? And that's so fucked up because if you have a man who can contain you, a man with depth and presence, you almost cannot stop yourself from going there. Like even if I wanted to, I could not. That's
Mhm.
how like strong like the pull is.
Yeah,
So all of our conversations around this always ignore the energetic conditions that a man must lay out for a woman in order to just naturally enter that place.
that's right. And so in this example that you gave, the woman is making a request for that. She's saying, I would really like that. I would like for you to create these conditions. and to
Mhm.
take the leadership in creating them in our dynamic. And the man is saying, I'm scared to do that, and I don't know how to do that. And what if I fail, or what if something bad happens, or what if, right? And
Mhm.
so he has to abandon that mental stuff and just be like, cool, I'm going to drop into it. The first time I experienced this, this was probably 12 years ago. I was so in my head and in this uh I don't know, inability that I had to get quite drunk. And the
Mhm.
woman who I was with, I think, did it on purpose. She's like, "Let's get drunk on vodka and just see what happens." Actually, it was tequila. And I was like, "Okay." And we did that, and it allowed this disinhibition.
Mhm.
And then good things happened as a result. And that was like, oh, I get it now. I actually experienced that physically, somatically, what that is like, and it's great.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, I would hope that people don't have to get drunk to experience that, but maybe so. It's yeah, it all comes back down to the man taking responsibility to create the conditions for receptivity. Then the waters can flow. Then everyone's happy.
Yes, yes, I absolutely agree with that. Let's go on and talk about scenario number two. So he pursues her, he plans the dates, he sleeps with her, introduces her to his friends, texts her every day, and enjoys all the emotional and physical intimacy of a committed relationship. He leans on her for support, expects loyalty, and becomes jealous when other men show interest in her. Yet every time the conversation turns around or turns towards defining the relationship, he pulls back. Although he is in his mid 40s, he insists that he is not ready to settle down. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm just going to go directly to the advice for women with this one, which
Mhm.
is you don't need to accept this. You don't need
Mhm.
to be around men like this. In fact, this to me is the archetype of the fuck boy. And so by staying with a man like this and putting up with this type of behavior, you're creating more fuck boys for the world to have to deal with. So there is a push pull, there is a takes two to tango situation here. But I would just say you don't need to accept this. If this isn't a dynamic that works for you, then just refuse it and use it as a way to look yourself in the mirror and say, what is it about me that attracted this type of person? I don't need this anymore. I'm going to elevate the self-worth that I have for myself and choose a man for whom this would not be a problem, this type of commitment stuff. Because essentially,
Yes.
this is a Peter Pan, puer aeternus type of situation. I mean, it's great to be able to create a seduction and to be able to create a situation where the juices are flowing. So, there's some masculinity there. That's
Mhm.
awesome. But commitment and understanding why that is a requirement for the woman's system to be able to fully let go is you need to, that's another rule. You need to be able to see it that way, like gravity. What
Mhm.
goes up must
Mhm.
come down, right? So uh, the other piece around it is around the leaning on her for support, and that's another sort of piece about that we've just spoken about. It's like, do you want that dynamic? Do you want to be lent on for support?
Mhm.
Is that what a relationship is for a man?
Yes, and do you really want your energy to be drained in this way and your time getting wasted? But
Yeah.
I think the problem in this, or for a lot of women in this scenario, is that they will often feel sorry for the guy because he often has some kind of like traumatic story. For
Hmm.
example, like the last woman that I was with, she broke my heart, or my divorce just nearly destroyed me. And now I cannot trust anybody, and I cannot open up, and I cannot commit. And a lot of women, because they are so empathetic, they will just be patient and hope that through their patience and love, he will magically change. But
Yeah.
he won't. He probably won't.
9 times out of 10 or
Yeah.
99 times out of 100, no.
Yes.
I think women are far too patient
Yes.
with men. I think that men would be better served as a whole if women were, uh, women don't need to become rageful or vengeful, but you can be respectful and say, I don't accept this dynamic. I'm not dealing with this. Like this is you need to heal. Perfect. You can go do that in your men's group, in therapy, in ayahuasca, whatever you want to do. You go do that. Because I, as a woman, am setting a certain standard, which in my view is reasonable, and that's what I'm going to hold to. Now, of course, there are going to be those outliers where because of a woman's patience, the man will transform. But the woman will pay the price for that.
Yes.
She will pay the fucking
You're
price.
still getting drained by him while he is figuring things out,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. And so it's bad. We don't
Mhm.
want that.
No,
We
no.
can't have that be like we can't accept that.
Yes,
And
yes.
it would be better for the man to be rejected and for the man to be put outdoors by that woman because that is often how the man will learn best. It's like, oh, women who I respect and want to be with won't put up with this.
Mm.
So I need to be forced back onto myself. That's often how men learn best is to be forced back onto themselves and not to use women as safe harbors, like I was saying earlier, where it's just like, oh, I can finally just. It's like, no, you do that with somebody who you pay. So there's a
Yes.
fair exchange, right?
Yes, which brings us up to the next scenario because I already hear a lot of people screaming out right now, like, why would you not support each other emotionally? So let's dive into the third scenario. So, on the surface, he appears very confident and masculine. He talks about success, ambition, and purpose and could be considered an alpha man. But whenever his partner succeeds, something shifts. Instead of celebrating her, he becomes disinterested, withdrawn, or dismissive. Conversations revolve almost entirely around him, his work, his ambitions, his professional struggles, and his victories. He can speak for hours about his own mission, but rarely asks a genuine question about hers and her creative passions. Whenever she starts talking about the work she is deeply passionate about, he quickly redirects the conversation back to himself. At the same time, he will often say things like, men do not care about a woman's career. We care about who she is.
Hmm. Yeah. So what that really means is I care about who she is to me and that she be who I want her to be. And I can put her in a
Wow.
little box.
Yes.
And then if she is in that box, then I care about her being in that box. But I don't really care about her her depths. A woman should feel cherished, revered, and seen as though she were a beautiful, still, clear mountain lake the man is just seeing into, beholding, and taking care of. She should feel transparently alive and beautiful as a result of a man's presence. So, such a man that you describe in this scenario is not present. He's not, he's not. When I was doing the work with ketamine assisted therapy, I would often run across these types of women in these scenarios who were with a very outwardly dominant man who had all kinds of financial resources, was killing it in his career, and yet she would complain to me, which was ironic to me, that she didn't feel seen, she didn't feel held, or like like she just never had that actual attention from him.
Mhm.
that was clean and present and slowed down. And yeah, it's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy. And to me, a man like this is seeking in the external world what he could only find within himself, which is that sense of stillness that would allow for the proper containing and being with his actual feminine partner. He does not revere the feminine in general. He's not oriented toward the feminine as beauty and as the nourishing, life-giving oasis that it is. He's just out in the desert trying to like get shit. And so, yeah, it's for women in this scenario, it's difficult because they may be provisioned, they may be taken care of in that specific like security way, which is worth something.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you need both for a full containment. You need both secure provisioning, sense of I'm fully safe in the material world, and also I have a connection where I'm fully seen and revered and cherished and asked about and cared for with presence. That's the standard of like a full containment.
Yes, it is. And I think it is so important that you just drew out this distinction because I have heard a lot of actually men's coaches that I respect talk about this, how they do not care about a woman's career or, her purpose in life, and they are only interested in like, like who she is. But to me, this compartmentalization does not make sense because when I think about my life and my creative work, I genuinely feel like my work is an expression of my soul. And I also know about you that you are also passionate in this way about everything that you are doing in this world. It is an expression of who you truly are on the level of essence. So I would take that very personally if a man would say to me, yeah, I do not care what you do for work. I do not care about your creative passions whatsoever. I only want to know who you are. And, a part of me is like, this is who I fucking am. I don't know like any other area of my life where I'm more myself than in my creative work. So I think this is a very destructive compartmentalization that a lot of men have. And it also, creates a lot of separation and hurt.
Yeah, it's just an excuse. It's
Yes.
just it's just a
Hmm.
nice excuse where you're like, oh, she's just over there and she
Hmm.
gives me sex and her attention is nice and I can talk to her about whatever amazing conquest have and that's that. And I don't
Hmm.
actually have to relate because relating requires presence. And many of these types of guys are not able to even sit for 5 minutes without looking at a phone or thinking about the next thing that they need to do. And so they cannot actually fully relate and be interested in the woman. But it's also in the moment and in the surroundings and in their body and to stillness at the ground of their being. If a man is still, then he has no problem creating the space where a woman can shine. A woman should be able to shine.
Hmm.
That should be his delight, is
Hmm.
to have the woman shine and for him to behold that and for him to be interested in creating the conditions where that can happen. Like what a great joy. I feel bad for those men for not being able to experience the joy of that. That's one of the greatest things ever
Hmm.
is to have that type of interaction or relationship.
Yes, it's so true. And I think the way that a lot of women in these situations are trying to solve the problem is by telling the man that he should open up, he should become more vulnerable, like he should connect with his emotions. But I think the real missing part here is not that he is not emotional enough. The problem is that he is cut off from his ability to sense with the body. Because if he could sense into her, If his
Mhm.
body could feel into her body and into her energy, like this is the actual nourishment that she is asking for. It's
Yeah.
not to listen to his problems and be his fucking therapist or whatever.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that is a skill that every man has, but he has atrophied it and it has been forgotten. It's the same skill that you have when you're hunting,
Hmm.
when you're doing anything that requires listening. And some men's coaches would or men would be like, "Well, that's feminine to be." It's like, no, no.
No, no.
It's the most masculine thing
Yes.
ever
Yes.
because it requires complete stillness inside for you to listen with your body for what's happening with the energy and what's happening around you. And it we gotta get back to that as men.
Mhm. Yes. Very true. Let's go on to the next scenario. Um, so he talks about consciousness, he talks about divine union, masculine and feminine energy. He is doing shadow work. He is into Tantra, sacred sexuality, and unconditional love. He has read every book and attended every retreat. He knows exactly which words make him sound emotionally evolved. He says he doesn't believe in labels because love is free. He believes that monogamy is merely a social construct. He identifies as polyamorous. And whenever a woman asks for commitment, exclusivity, or clarity, he reframes her desire as attachment, fear, conditioning, or lack of consciousness.
Mhm. Well, the first thing is I don't know what's wrong with attachment.
Yes, yes,
Attachment is
so
how we
true.
relate. Um, and it's a another Peter Pan scenario. So
Mhm.
with these types of men, if you're a woman, you cannot reform these people. Just forget about it. And again, decide that you are worth being in a relationship with a man who with whom you do not need to negotiate these types of things with. You don't need to re-educate. They already get it. So you just need to let these types of guys just go do their weird thing and let them be because it's you cannot rescue them or fix them or try to go back and forth with them and debate them. It's just a complete waste of time. So please don't do it.
But what if the woman herself is like, yeah, but I'm not even sure if I'm in a phase of my life right now where I want a committed relationship. Maybe I also just want to, kind of like fuck around and find out. What would you say? Should she still date him? Should she still sleep with him? Yes or no?
I don't know. I mean, I think you just have to ask yourself where, what kinds of connections, what kind of man would I really want to be with, regardless of whether I
Mhm.
want to fuck around or not? What kind of man do I want to be with? And this is going to go, I'm going to do some foreshadowing because I know that you want to ask me later about like general advice or what have you for women. It's just ideally you would be with a man that you respect.
Mhm.
Why would you not be with, why would you want to be with a man with that you don't respect in some way?
Yes, and
So
what is up? Like, maybe you can tell me this. What is up with all of these like Tantra guys? Because like honestly, a lot of men who are in the Tantra scene seem like the most emasculated men to me that are out there. You know
mhm.
what type of man I'm referring to?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think that it's an extension of the nice guy, and it's basically just a strategy.
Uh-huh.
It's like
Yes.
a strategy for approval and affirmation. And I've noticed that a lot of the women that these types of guys tend to get with are younger women who just don't know any better. Like there's often that age gap or that differentiation. So yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself as a woman, it doesn't matter what phase you're in. You want to fuck around? You want to find a husband? Cool. Why not? In both scenarios, be with a woman, be with a man that you really respect. Why wouldn't that just be your base case, your foundation? So I would say define who that is.
Mhm.
What creates respect in you of another man, of another person? What do you feel is just like, oh my God, I just love that. I would love to be with that type of guy.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you just want to have sex with him a few times, you just want to fuck around, you want to have some adventures, perfect. It doesn't matter. You want to get married, cool. But you might as well say, I'm worth being with somebody I respect. And
Mhm.
in your body, when you're around these types of guys, do you really respect them? Does it make you feel that admiration?
Mhm.
Probably not. So if it doesn't, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
Yes, that's a very good answer. Thank you so much. I have one last scenario that, wait, I have a bit of a mess in my in my papers right now. So yes, let's dive into that. So he tells her that he loves her. He wants exclusivity, he wants loyalty, and he wants a family. He talks about having children together, and she knows that she is ready. She is aware that her fertile years are limited and wants to intentionally build a family. But whenever she brings up the topic of marriage, he pulls away. He says a piece of paper does not prove love. If two people truly love each other, they shouldn't need a contract. He asks her to make one of the biggest commitments a woman can make, carrying his child, while refusing to make the commitment that matters deeply to her.
Mhm. Well, it's similar to other scenarios we've discussed. First of all, he puts his ideology ahead of her experience. He doesn't respect her experience. He doesn't respect her biology and what her biology needs to be able to go through with the entire process of having a child. So that's the first disrespect that has been committed on his part. And then it's just a failure of imagination to to misunderstand what this marriage is as a piece of paper, just a piece of paper. Because this word I love, temenos, it's Greek for a space in which something sacred can happen. That's what marriage is when approached correctly. And the piece of paper is a part of that. But it's a way of defining in the eyes of society the fact that you have created this temenos and said, we're going to do this fucking hard thing that has 50% failure rate. That's going to be insane and horrible at times. It's going to be beautiful, but it's fundamentally a crucible where we're going to go through an alchemical process of dying to our old selves and being reborn. And we're going to do that together and we're going to set that whole thing up. And as a man, I'm going to create that space with you intentionally and take responsibility for it. And a part of that will be of our divine union will be the child or children that we produce together. And so we're going to create that intentionally. And as, again, part of my leadership as a man, I'm going to take responsibility for that. So he just doesn't get that. So again, if you don't have a man that gets that in front of you, he can't do it, then he can't do it. There's no sense of trying to re-educate. I just
Mhm.
think a lot of things would go better for women if they really questioned what is often a scarcity mentality around. I just have to put up with this because I get some of what I want. I get some love and like he's really nice and it's these other qualities. You are contributing to the problem. I know that you don't want to
Yes.
hear that, but you are.
Mhm. Yes.
You are creating more of these types of liminal guys. We don't need liminal guys. We
So
need
true.
guys who understand the rules of the game and are like, fuck yeah, let's
Mhm.
do it.
Mhm.
Because in order to do that, in order to take the risk of marriage and creating the crucible, you need to have enough contact with your true, authentic self as a man, where you're like, I can fucking do this. I got this in
Mhm.
the bag. Let's
Mhm.
go.
Mhm.
Like, life is for diving in fully and doing it. You need a man who understands that, has that level of contact with that authority inside and that fundamental trust and belief in how he is in life. That's the
Mhm.
real ground and basis for how you can show up and create the crucible and the container where marriage can happen. And if you don't have that kind of guy in front of you, don't make any apology for leaving and finding a man who does have that. It can be simple because they're out there.
Yes, I agree with you, but I actually know quite a few of women who kind of like settled in that way. You know, they were kind of like in their mid to late 30s and their biological clock was ticking, and they found a
Mhm,
guy that was kind of like good enough, but you know, a guy that they maybe weren't crazy about. And then they married him and um, carried his child because they did not believe fundamentally that they could find somebody, I guess, who could really meet them on all levels.
yeah.
And
And
it
that,
is, I think it is difficult if you are a woman who is kind of like in that liminal phase where your fertile window is like closing, right? And then you have a guy who is actually quite good, but he doesn't want to marry you. But, you know, apart from that, things are kind of like fine. Yeah, it's
mhm,
very difficult. I don't know what I would do in this scenario. I never wanted to have children, but this is kind of like I think or I feel where I could understand a woman like making a choice of like tolerating his shit in a way.
mhm.
It's that's like a really tough spot to be in, I think, as a woman.
Yeah, it's a shitty bargain.
Yeah.
It really sucks. And so in life, you get to choose between pain and other pain often. And it's those types of moments where you really find out what you're made of. And so maybe life has put you in this situation, which is unenviable. All right. Well, is it the pain of I don't have a child? Or is the pain of I have a child and I have to deal with this type of thing? And only you can make that decision.
Hmm.
Ideally,
Hmm.
you won't get into that. Ideally,
Hmm.
if you're younger,
Hmm.
you can really get into the lab with yourself and put under a microscope whatever belief would say, I would need to put up with this, or I'm
Hmm.
not worthy of finding this kind of man who can create this space with me. Because if you can do that early enough, you can see that it's not true and you can jettison that and you can show up in the places where such a man that you would fully want to create this with would exist and then create the relationship with him.
Hmm. Yes.
But if you,
I
yeah,
I also feel like that a lot of women are indoctrinated with this belief that relationships are hard work, right? And that it brings up all of your trauma, and then you need to stay and work through the trauma. And that is also, I think, the culture that we are living in. And it kind of like, I think, makes women tolerate much more than they actually should.
mhm,
Because my honest opinion, you know, like, and like I'm saying this like my mother is a couples therapist, so I think I have quite a good an insight into, you know, like what dysfunctions you know, a lot of people are experiencing in their relationships and what breaks down marriages and all of that stuff. And if I would be in their shoes, I would just leave, to be honest with you. I would
mhm.
not be patient enough to, you know, go through years of couples therapy and hope that my partner will change and see me one day. I would just leave him.
Yeah. Many men are very comfortable going to couples therapy
Yes,
because
it's
it
a
can just be talked about and pushed, the can could be kicked down the road. And I think, like I've said a few times now, men are better served often when they are having to be forced back onto themselves. And they really have to go through crisis and see the results of the things that they could not see earlier. And if
Mhm.
women enable them to not have to go through that, it's an initiation. If women are too lenient and create too much of the dark mother thing, then men are not served. Men stay adolescent and juvenile, and they don't step fully into dominance and responsibility of the adult man. And that transition is very difficult. It sucks. It sucks for a reason
Mhm.
because life often sucks. And because we've lost those rituals of initiation that would have a 15-year-old boy have to cross a shark infested channel to get to this island and then come back alive. And if you died, you fucking died. We don't need you. If you made it,
Mhm.
great. That's the kind of person we need in this tribe. We don't have any of that anymore. And it should not be women holding men back artificially from having to go through the whole fire.
Mhm.
Women can be the
Mhm.
mirror where they show the man, hey, you actually are not initiated enough to be able to exist with the mature feminine right now. And that doesn't have to have any charge with it. It can just be facts. Men deal well with facts.
Mhm.
This is a fact. Cool. And he's forced back onto himself and has to go through that full cycle. And that's where it's so important that a man has access to his brothers and to men who are better than him, to go back to the beginning of the conversation, who can see this and
Mhm.
hold him to
Mhm.
account and help him move through it. It was always men initiating men. It was never women initiating men. So when a man has that group who can hold him as he goes through it, then he will be able to go through. But a woman should not artificially delay or try to protect or soften the blow of that. It's not helping anyone. It's really not.
Mhm. Yes, and I can even feel the relief in my body when I just think about that we as women do not have to carry this weight. We do not have to take on the pain or lack of decisiveness of men. It's just not ours to carry. We can just let
No.
it go and just be. And
Yeah.
it's like such a relief, just, to know that the man will just take care of his shit and you don't have to do anything.
Yes. You have
Yes.
to find in yourself as a woman that that knowing, and you have to interrogate anything inside of you that is seeking the illusion of love through an uninitiated man's relationship. You have to just see like, oh, I have been allowing this because I want love and confirmation, and maybe he does give me some presents, or maybe he does give me a slice of the goodness, but there's a bargain. You have to see, oh, I'm tolerating this like half love. And it forces the woman back upon herself to say, no, no, I am actually worth the whole package, the whole enchilada.
Mhm.
And I need to love myself and exist in love in myself, regardless of if there's a man or not, who's who I get to express with. Because the ideal place is for us to get from relationships being this thing where we have to get. I need to get your love and I need to contort myself and do whatever I need to, including
Mhm.
delaying your initiation so that I can get your love. We need to let go of that and go to relationships or a place where we get to express together. We get to express what is already here. We get to express our love. That's a powerful difference for you to experience acquisition and getting versus expression. And it depends on a man being able to go through those initiations on his own and with his brothers, not with the woman trying to keep him safe.
Yes, and I also think that for the woman, developing this kind of like discernment and self-worth and rejecting every single man who is not really meeting her where she wants to be met. I think this in itself is also an initiation for her. So I think
Absolutely.
actually all sides benefit from this process.
Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us. I have one last question for you. What does leading a woman mean for you personally in your life?
It's a great opportunity. It's a great privilege. It's a great honor. It's a uh, it's a responsibility. It means, as I've said before, creating the conditions for receptivity to occur. Because when receptivity occurs in the woman and in the relationship, that's where all the juice, that's where all the juice happens. We want the juiciness. We want the radiance. We want to have fun. We want to go on adventures. We want to feel what it's like to be with a woman who's very radiantly relaxed and present and alive. So to be able to lead a woman means to take responsibility for creating that. And of course, it's not going to always be easy. It's not something
Mm,
that you can just install. It's a discipline, it's a devotion. You have to do it every day. It requires, first of all, you containing yourself. You need to be able to put yourself in reliably good states of mind and of body. You need to take care of yourself. You need to dom yourself first. And that involves as well being able to create the space where if you have emotional fluxes as a man, if you have times where you feel a lot of doubt in yourself or in where you're going, or if you feel tired and drained, or any number of emotions that you don't really want to feel, you need to be able to create the space where it's safe to feel that in yourself. And if you can't always do that, that's why you need to have brothers around you. That's the point of men's work and men's groups, and also working with people one to one is creating the place for you to be able to be contained and also learn what it feels like through that containment of you to contain yourself, as well as what it feels like for the woman who you are with when you are containing her. So you need a full experience of your own containment first to be able to lead a woman properly. And uh, then I think it just is a jettisoning of the past stories that we've been given around what we think a relationship is for. As I've said, it's not to get, it's not for this emotional equality. It's not for things to be fair. It's
mhm.
fair that she listened to my emotions and, like take care of me. That needs to be let go. And it's an
Yes.
initiation to be able to cross through that and see that it's not about fairness in that way.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
like things work better. Would you like your car to work better? Than you put oil in it, the oil that it's designed to take. As in a man's brain, it should be that simple. Car run better with oil. Well, this is the oil, right? So, uh, and then ultimately, it should be fun. Like we speak in terms that are often quite, you know, I don't know, strict or certain or definite. But
Mhm.
like the whole point of it is for more fun, beauty, aliveness, meaning, connection, adventure. That's the whole fucking point.
Mhm.
That's the point. Relationships are life. So there are conditions you can create where relationships can be more of all of that. So let's create that as men. Let's like take that on as a project. That seems meaningful. That seems like, hey, and other guys have done it. It's not like it's this arcane science. And more
Mhm.
women, thankfully, are asking for it. They're like, I would like this to happen. Amazing. The conditions are present, right? So I think that when we as men understand that there's going to be a lot more juice and life will be less of a desert when we take on the responsibility to create the oasis. then it becomes a no-brainer.
Yes, it does sound like a very fun project. And if any of our listeners are curious about how to get in touch with you or how to learn more about your work and your current offers, how can they get in touch with you?
I would say Instagram is a nice, quick way
Mhm.
to get in touch with me. Just send me a DM. It's just at Noah Sabuliak, Noahcebuliak.
I will put
Or you can,
everything in the show notes so you can
perfect.
find it there.
You can go there or you can go to my website, noahsabuliak.com. But yeah, be in touch. If you have resonated with what we've talked about today and you want to go deeper, or you know somebody who could go deeper, then absolutely be in touch and let's have a conversation.
Yes, I highly recommend working with Noah, especially if you are the type of man who is listening to this and who wants to have this dynamic with your woman. Go and work with Noah because he is able to transmit the energy behind it, which is, I think, the most important piece of it.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, Noah. It was a pleasure to talk to you as always. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, let's do this again soon. Thank you so much, and
Absolutely.
thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye bye.